Good afternoon, folks. Today is August 28th, 2021. I'm with the University of Florida Samuel Research Program. My name is Eric Chavez, and I'm speaking with
Sandra Serrano.
Me pass it to
Mary Valdemar.
And
Veronica Brooks.
Veronica Brooks. All right. Just me to explain more about who he is and what's his name.
My nephew's name is Ernie Teddy Serrano. He was born July 13th, 1987. He is my brother Theodore's son. Ernie's dad was killed before Ernie was born, so my nephew never got to meet his father. Ernie was an artist. He was bright. He was funny. He had a sense of humor. He always saw the positive in a bad situation, and he always just made us laugh just by his laugh, his jokes, the way he spoke, how he walked, and just his view of the world.
Can you explain more about the incident and what was it?
My nephew was at our local Stater Brothers in Jurupa Valley, down the street from my home, buying some snacks when the cops were called because he was acting erratic. There was a robo-cop, wannabe cop, inside the store who was taunting him, who was just going after him, and my nephew just kept walking away from him and was just trying to buy his snacks, trying to buy some cookies and water. And from the video you could see this security guard his goal was to take Ernie down. The cops were called at that point, and they right away rushed him, started beating him with the baton as he's just kept swiping his card, trying to pay for his stuff. Next thing you know, they had him on the ground. Then they put him up on the cash register, put a face mask on him, a face net, and they basically just lay on top of him until he dies. As he's dying, he's crying out for help. He's coughing up blood. He's confused. He's scared. He doesn't know what's going on. And the cops don't care. They stay on top of him minutes after he had already passed. Then the cops they lied to us. They told us that he died at the hospital. When he actually died inside Stater Brothers.
Can you explain more about the community and the accountability there was?
Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Mary?
Sure, about the community. Say that again?
And the accountability of the officers.
Accountability of the police, yeah. So in Riverside, we're on occupied Cahuilla land, indigenous land, of course, in the inland region of Southern California. The sheriff there is Sheriff Chad Bianca. So we've been actively involved in a campaign called Boot Bianca, which is to remove the sheriff. These were 5 Riverside sheriffs that killed Ernie by asphyxiation. And Chad Bianco has said they will receive no accountability, no discipline, not even a slap on the wrist. And they certainly haven't had any charges or any real consequences for the crime of murdering Ernie. I think a really important thing to bring up as we're talking about indigenous land and Native people, brown people, black people, is to really understand that this is clearly intergenerational trauma, right? Ernie's father was killed, he was killed, and it's a legacy of families who've experienced trauma since 1492 when this land was first occupied. You know, so we were talking earlier about the idea of genocide, right? That this is part of a genocide against people of color, against people who are rightfully connected to the land, and especially in California, as we talk about the mission system and decolonizing, and many of our brown and Chicano relatives who don't know that they're indigenous because their language was stolen from them, their children were stolen in residential schools and boarding schools, you know, their spiritual ways, their connection to the earth, everything was severed and erased, and we still experience that today as Native and brown and indigenous people of color in general. We're still being erased and made invisible. And this is just another example. As you think of the hundreds of families here who have gotten no justice, have gotten no prosecutions, not even a slap on the hand, because these cops have qualified immunity. And that means basically, just as in 1492, they were allowed to do whatever they wanted to people of color. Enslave them, murder them, brutalize them, you know, rape women, you know, harm their children, remove their children from their care. That's still happening today. It's not over. It's not done. And so at some point, as people, you know, we have to come together and we have to say, this is not justice. We're here at the state capitol where supposedly the laws and all these buildings and all these people here are supposed to be about justice. This is not what justice looks like. Here we've had hundreds of years of police brutality, of state violence, and there's no end to it. So at what point does a generation say that's enough? Not one more generation. Our youth, our children, you know, all the names that we know of, you know, of people who have never gotten justice, not even a taste or a drop of justice. And that needs to end today. I don't want to see another generation of youth having to suffer this way. And that's only going to happen if we come together and scream, shout, do whatever we have to do to say that this system doesn't work for us. It wasn't built for us, it's not made for us, and we're done with it.
Thank you so much. Is there any last thoughts or personal statements you want to say?
Yes, I want to read a poem real quick by Ernie. Ernie was a poet, he was a writer, he was a rapper, and he was a foodie. He loved food. This poem is called Waiting by Ernie Serrano. I'm trapped in a dark place where nothing grows but the anger and pain. The sun shines darkness. I don't know which way is up or which way is down. I know not right from wrong. The mist is heavy. The rain is relentless. Sorrow sheds blue blood from the eyes that don't cry. I think I'm lost in my mentality. Adrift, floating in the starless night sky. I don't know if I'm waiting for death or waiting to become alive.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your personal feelings. Appreciate it. And that's the end of the interview.